From the gold path you come pan, bare feet in dine dust, crowns of fennel. You wake the hills with a crooked laugh, and the sheep lift their heads at your name. Demeter, hear us by the cut wheat. Keep the roots full, keep the jars deep. Hermes run swift past the stone gate, bring the lost back by moonlight. Pan on the hill, pan on the hill, wild blood king of the stone. With a grin like a knife, then slips through the dust. Dionysus in the grape dark wears a purple stain. He pours out the day for the laughing girls. Demeter, hear us by the cut wheat. Keep the roots full, keep the jars deep. Hermes run swift past the stone gate, bring the lost back by moonlight. Pan on the hill, pan on the hill, king of the stone and reed. Pan on the hill, pan on the hill, teach us to dance with the hard earth. In the goat shed, in the fig shade, a small got stirs in the straw bed. Old earth turning under bare hands. We are your children and we stand.
What is going on, everybody? Good evening and welcome back to the Occult Rejects, another episode of Rustic Gods, a late night episode of Rustic Gods. Headless, can you hear me?
I can now. I had to turn off my headphones. I guess there was a problem there.
Headless couldn't hear the music. He was like, it's not playing. I was like, yes, it is. Everyone's jamming out. That was something that I had made in the last 30 minutes. AI can produce some bangers. Guys, welcome to Rustic Gods. I am one of your two hosts, Jules, the handsome Hierophant, the Mississippi Mystic, the host of Grey Pilled. With me is my co-host, the beautiful and illustrious Headless Giant, the feral pagan himself, Hellenic Schizo Poster. What's going on, man? You had a good week so far? I can't hear you now.
How you doing? I'm still having audio problems. Hold on.
It's good to be back at on an Occult Rejects episode. This is a series we've been doing for some months now. This is episode 14, and it's good to be back doing a Rustic Gods. Definitely. Can you not hear me? Still can't hear me.
No, I can hear you. It's just I had a siren going by at the exact moment that you threw it to me.
I get it. It is.
So,
Tuesday evening. So
Yeah, at least we don't have a motorcycle rally going on right now. But how's everybody doing? I think this is going to be a banger of an episode. We're a little bit late on the Ostara posting, but this is going to be a good episode. I think a lot of people are still kind of confused about the rabbits, the goddesses, and what that has to do with Jesus somehow. And so I think maybe we can clear a little bit of that up and talk about the theological significance to the pagan world of, the rites of spring. And
absolutely.
I think that'll be a good time.
People are ill-informed on, and then they inform themselves through what we talked about on our last episode, Hollywood, what they depict, and which subverts the European culture totally. And all you got to look at is who makes the movies, who owns Hollywood.
Exactly. And here's the thing about it. I think by pushing all of this stuff that was practiced for thousands and thousands of years back into the subconscious mind of Europeans, it becomes really easy to guide them around by the nose because their biology, their minds, their subconscious minds recognize these symbols. Right. But conscious mind is a little bit less aware of them, and they're given a bunch of gaslighting stories that sort of make up for the lack of connectedness that they should be feeling during these times. So first off, I want to get to a little video here that was both of our minds. This is the
the Thor demon, dude, and apparently
this is what paganism will do to you. Apparently,
Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Jesus.
Get up, Thor.
Thank you, Jesus.
Go down.
Thank you, Jesus.
Stay in the chair, Thor.
Jesus.
Stay in the chair, Thor.
he did that.
subtitles because I wouldn't know what the hell.
And as I'm touching
It's like
you,
you did
burning,
that,
because
Thor.
I stand in God's covenant agreement. Look at me, Thor. Look at me, Thor. Legal right. Yes or no? Simple. Legal right. Yes or no? Legal right.
Boy, those white.
Yes or no? No! He repented.
Is that Adam
He
Green?
repented. You have to go. You have to. You haven't got a legal right. Christ's blood has broken that. His forgiveness has broken that. His repentance has broken that. His coming to church has broken that. His faithfulness to serve God has broken that. Say two. Two.
Thank you, Jesus.
Say two. Two. That. Number two. Pit. Lord God, by your anointing that's in this place, Jesus Christ is Lord. His kingdom rules.
Why does this keep happening?
Say pit.
He's on drugs.
Say you now. Say I thank you because we stand in God's providence. We stand in his kingdom. And Jar's getting free because he's not giving up. He's pursuing the Lord Jesus Christ. Faith. That's right. He's got faith. You have to go. You have to go. Say pit. Say pit, Thor.
Say it.
Pit! Come out of him. Go. Come out. Come out of him.
Look at that. No pea soup for you.
Come out. Come out.
Very patient.
Come out of him.
Wait, it doesn't show the vomit?
No.
Why not?
Well, that would be I don't know. He was kind enough and pleasant enough to keep it in until after he got the vomit bag. But
Dude, look.
why does this keep happening to the Christians? It's not happening to anybody else. Isn't that interesting?
When you exist in a certain dichotomy, I mean, I think you open yourself up to things, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know what that was. Maybe mental illness, perhaps.
I think I know what it was. He was
What?
too white.
He was too white?
Right. It was a Thor demon, right? So his people aren't Semitic enough, so therefore they're possessed by demons. Right? So he was too white. He had these demons in him, and they had to come out because, it wasn't Semitic enough.
I just saw that, dude. And I was just like, this is ridiculous, man.
Very, very polite demon. I'm glad that he was being so kind to us that he wouldn't, vomit until he got the bag in front of him. But
Yes, very true. Let's see. I'm gonna pull this.
That demon really cares about the
But
carpets.
yeah, dude. And like, even when I had Stein on and I talked to him, he's like, even if that guy was a pagan, he venerated Thor or whatever. He said, the people that, a lot of people that hail Odin or whatever, they don't really, they're not in contact with that energy. I guess that would be a LARP or whatever. Because it's like a kind of left-hand path energy. You know what I mean? And so it's a certain type of practice. And
I think what it is they have what's they refer to in the Bible as a guilt sacrifice. Like they feel guilty. They've been told that all of these other things are demons, and that guilt manifests as sort of like this overwhelming sense, because they're in a cosmic battle at all times, right? So that guilt of being disconnected from whatever this source of all things are, when they say that, it's the ever-present, all-knowing deity. So if you've got that guilt inside of you, it's going to manifest in a lot of different ways. And so what you see is that these subconscious sort of feelings of dissonance start to come to the surface. And so it manifests in different ways. And one of those ways would be having these displays of outbursts, right? And you can see that a lot where you can bring something up to a person. It seems logical. It seems rational. And what you're doing is talking about it in a very calm manner. And then they explode on you. And that's a very common practice when you're going through, maybe you shouldn't be just giving all of your money to the poor. Maybe you shouldn't be just spending all of your time doing these things and then praying to a God that is, essentially what we see in Psalms 137:9, a baby killer, right? So he says, happy are those that smash the kids' heads against the rocks. Sometimes that manifests as a emotional outburst. And we can see a lot of that same kind of demon possession happening when you walk people through the logical steps to try and show them what they're doing. So when they talk about the demon possession, it is kind of specific to that group because of the fact that it's massive amounts of emotional manipulation that really starts to fuck with your subconscious mind.
Yeah. And, that's kind of just what I was saying. Just because someone says that they worship, a certain entity or they venerate a certain deity, it doesn't mean that they do, right? But I mean, was he a member of like their little congregation or whatever, or was he just someone that came in off the streets?
I don't know. They don't really say.
I guess they would.
It certainly was dramatic.
So it could have just been acting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's that.
There's that as well.
Wouldn't surprise me, guys. Yeah, we are talking about Ēostre tonight. Ostara. This is where the rabbits come, or the hare, the eggs, right? Fertility. Let's do. Well, no, never mind. You were talking about, you had pictures of something else. I'll pull some of these pictures up.
Right. So this is actually a test.
Ēostre, right?
Eos would be part of like the root word of Ostara, right? Eos would be the Greek goddess, and she's the one who opens the gates for her brother Helios, the sun, to come out at dawn, and she's often venerated around the time of the solstices. Solstices and equinox.
God, you are next to a highway.
Well, a lot of people feel like they could just speed and do whatever the hell they want to on these roads once it gets.
So you just live on a back road or something?
Well, yeah, it's not that far from the road, but I can never get that mute button in time.
Dude, it's all good. That one was just loud. I was like, oh wow, he's hauling ass.
Right. So the primary pagan goddesses associated with the name and timing of Easter is Ēostre, Ostra, Anglo-Saxon goddess of the spring and dawn. So it goes back to that Eos root, right? Her existence is attested to by an 8th century monk, right? So the monks were recording this. His name was Bede, who wrote that the month of April, formerly called Usramonop, in her honor, and that the Christian Paschal season adopted her name. So half of Europe calls Easter Paschal or Passover, and the other half, the more Western half, calls it Easter, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of got the Easter part of it, and they got the Paschal part of it, but that was kind of in an effort to convert, right? So by keeping the names of these festivals and these sacred rites, what they were planning on doing is to have a much more cohesive way of converting these crazy heathens who are all possessed like that guy, except they're not when they're alone, right? So scholars also theorize that a related continental Germanic goddess named Ostara, based on linguistic cognates in Old High German and votive inscriptions on lots of other places. While popular culture often links Easter to the Mesopotamian goddess Ishtar, that's not the case.
Yeah,
right?
Here I'll pull that depiction up. Yeah, and it's definitely not the case.
Yeah, it definitely derives from the Germanic roots as opposed to the more Middle Eastern roots. But here's the thing: there's a lot of crossover because of the actual spiritual energies of this time period, right? So as the wheel of the year is turning, there is a definite change in what I call affect, right? Affect is not just about a group of people having a certain energy to them. Like I'm sure we've all been in the case where you can walk into a room and actually feel the tension between the people in that room.
Oh, yeah.
That same idea applies to the wheel of the year. Different times of the year have certain energetic feelings to them. Another example of this would be February 2nd or Imbolc. There is a definite feeling and a change in the air that you can actually palpably feel. I think sometimes even more so than Easter, but the changing of the seasons isn't just about the temperature. There's a change in spiritual energies that's taking place during these time periods. Absolutely. That I think a lot of people miss because they're too focused on other parts, other
factors. Focused on egg hunts.
Right.
But like festivities were always a part of it, right? As they are in every festival. You know, the egg painting, I think that was very important. I saw a lot of posts this year with people painting runes on eggs. That's pretty cool. That was one way to do it, or to paint some kind of maybe a certain depiction of one of, these goddesses, these fertility goddesses. But this is the Ishtar. And now you said, it's definitely, I think a different archetype altogether. And maybe the contrasting dark to light, right? Maybe some dualism there. I don't know, but you see obviously the owls. Now, this image is this old, or was this like an ancient Assyrian?
I think it's very
carving.
Even like this Assyrian depiction goes way back before that, right? So
right.
Ishtar and these rites of spring go way back into the Sumerian time periods, but the idea is that these are sort of the bringers of this energy. They're the harbingers of the coming year. And in this case, like, you could be talking about the dark to light aspects of the body itself, right? So the lower part of the body is now sort of animalistic, and the upper part of the body is now humanistic, right? So you've got these two different and seemingly contrasting energies with this sort of idea. So owls being associated with the dark, and then as you go further up the body, you've got the wings and the feet now becoming far more human-like. So the aspects themselves sort of reflect the energy that's going on. You've also got Demeter, right? So the Demeter idea of, she is bringing these spring blooms, having her daughter kidnapped and then returned to her every 6 months. This was also reflected at the oracle at Delphi. The Apollo would leave for the winter, so the changing of the seasons, the changing of the affect in the world around you would cause these gods to go different places. They weren't this sort of ever-present idea. They had different places to be and different things to do. So in the case of Apollo, he would retreat to Hyperborea for 6 months out of the year and be replaced by Athena and Poseidon during those months, right? So
Really?
it wasn't always Apollo delivering the messages through the oracle at Delphi. They had different gods come in and take the role based off of what they were doing, what their contractual obligations were, other things like that. So you're not always getting the same energies because all of these things are associated with the affect of that time of year.
So is there like somewhat of a masculine energy to Easter at all, or?
Well, I think having the rabbits there kind of implies that kind of masculine energy.
You need that kind of counterpart. Yeah.
It's the give and take, right? So some of the rites of spring, let me see if I can pull them up here. So associated, let me see. In Welsh mythology, Olwen is identified with a spring goddess whose footsteps cause white lilies to grow, symbolizing fertility and new life. Again, like if you're following the path of nature, what you're going to be doing is looking for the signs and symbols that the gods have been there at that place. So as the gods are treading on the earth, they're going to be changing the seasons and changing the different pathways that you're going to be looking for as symbols in nature. So you've also got fairy rings and other things associated with gods, goddesses, fairies, elves, all the rest of that stuff, which the rustics were constantly paying attention to. These weren't just physical changes. These were spiritual changes that would change from one area to another. But even the egg itself, it implies sort of like the opening, especially when it comes to the Greeks, right? So according to the Orphics, they kind of changed around the cosmology a little bit from earlier time periods. They believed in this Orphic egg idea, right? And the firstborn out of that Orphic egg was this Phanes Protogonos guy, who is also, part animal, part human hybrid thing. And Phanes Protogonos means light the firstborn. So light the firstborn erupting out of that cosmic egg sort of indicates the first gleaming of the universe, right? So all of the things were contained within the egg. And then as it would hatch forth, it would bring that into the world itself. So again, like you see the clouds, you see the carrying of the staff, all of the rains coming in would be a more masculine energy. As it's raining on the land, it's also producing the plants that are coming up because of it. So April showers brings Mayflowers idea is still a really pagan concept, right? What they're trying to say is that all of these different parts are working together to produce certain results in nature. And if you're following the path of nature, you're getting closer to the gods, right?
Yeah.
The gods are the ones acting in a way similarly every single time.
Yeah. And, nature is something you experience naturally, right? There's no influence from anything else. It's just, whoa. You hear that?
No.
I hear an echo.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Is it on my end? I put my headphones on, but they're not working right now.
Uh-oh. I don't know if you're listening to it on your speakers, then yeah, maybe.
Here, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah. But right here you have, got some little flying babies. I don't know if those are fae, could be cherubim, right? Or like what was first depicted as cherubim. Then you have the bunnies and the crane. The crane drops the baby off, right? Like you said about the bunny. And then we have the Easter bunny, it's very popular among the kids. I mean, eventually they figure out that, you could teach them that it does actually represent something, right? Instead of just being like, oh, it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And then,
well, there is the idea of
means nothing to
sympathetic
them.
magic. there
Yeah.
is the idea of sympathetic magic. So what you're trying to do is harmonize what you're doing when it comes to spring and the fertility and the different rites associated with that fertility with the idea of increasing that bounty, increasing the fertility from these different things. This is the
We've talked about this before. And I don't know if it was a Rustic Gods. It may have been you coming on Grey Pilled. It may have been one of your episodes on Grey Pilled.
It
I
could
don't
be.
know.
But the three hairs motif, I think, really represents sort of this continuity of life that's sort of constantly in a mix or a balance of fertility. You know, it's constantly the birth, death, rebirth cycle that rabbits really do represent. So having rabbits included in the spring rites is a way of having a continuity or a synchronicity with the energies that are happening at that time period themselves. There's also the idea of new life being represented by naivety, right? The Fool card,
Yeah.
right? This idea of brand new energy entering into the planet after, you know, long months of winter and dormancy. Now it's being able to return back into the world of the living, right? And if you've ever had rabbits, you kind of realize that they're a lot closer to the spirit world than anybody gives them credit for. They're half in, half out all the time, right? It's not just that they're symbols of life. They're also really, really close to the underworld and other life. So, you know, this triple hair thing can be a lot more symbolic than people give it credit for.
It's very, very pretty reminiscent of the Billy Val. I just posted. I have it as a emoji in my Rumble chat. Here, let me pull it up. It's Odin and his two brothers, right? So you see that motif a lot, that kind of pattern.
Absolutely. So it was in a lot of different ways. You've got the Trinity, right? You've got the fertility, and then there's that death aspect as well. So you've got spirit in there, you've got life, death, and rebirth that all sort of fits into this triple hairs motif. This is why I think it was a powerful symbol that kind of gets forgotten over the years. You know, it's like there's when you look at the ears, you can't tell where one is beginning and where one is ending. And in a lot of ways, unfocusing yourself on just yourself will provide that same type of not knowing where you begin and where the outside world ends. You know, this kind of blurring of the lines that allows one into a more Gnostic state where they can, you know, finally perceive things on a much different level. I'm sorry, this monologue is not ending.
It's fine, dude. It's fine.
And it's funny, you know, rabbits, one of the ways that people would catch rabbits over the years was that they always break left, right? So as you're chasing a rabbit, if you go off to the left from a rabbit as he's running forward, you know they're always going to break in that direction. Yeah. And you can actually pick it up by the ears themselves. So there is this idea of predictability with the rabbit that is sort of a spiritual.
Did not break right?
It's either right or left. I forget. I'd have to go run after a rabbit to find out. But they don't usually break in one direction first. So the first direction they usually break is the same across all species of rabbits. And there is that kind of predictability to life if you're trying to catch a rabbit.
Dude, if you catch a rabbit, it'll fuck you up. The rabbit will kick the shit out of you, dude.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize rabbits used to be, back in the evolutionary past, they used to be meat eaters. And they stopped eating meat. And so this is why they have to consume their own poop, is because they don't have enough intestines to fully digest plant matter the first time through. I know it's disgusting, but
no, I mean it makes sense.
That's why I think it's the ultimate symbol of change, you know, because it sort of evolved past the idea of eating meat and animals. I mean, even though they do at times, I mean, there's nothing that's really a strict vegetarian. It's just what do they eat mostly. But the idea there is that, they were able to actually, move off of the path they were on, fully change from one decision tree network to another over the time that they've been around on the planet. So,
Ēostre or Ēostre is I think it's Ēostre Moneth is her actually. So is a Germanic Anglo-Saxon goddess of the dawn spring, because then you have that Eos, right? Ēostre. Dawn, spring, and fertility, representing the renewal of life after winter. Primarily known through an 8th century mention by the... Okay, I don't care about all that. Never mind. See, I mean, yeah, and I'm sure you can find this goddess in every culture.
Right. Well, the main spring goddess for the Greeks, she was Persephone, queen of the...
Okay, that's who I was thinking of. All right, all right.
But Eos fits in there too, right? So Eos also has a role to play for opening the gates for her brother, but she is a more Titanic energy as opposed to an Olympian energy. Persephone is far more Olympian than Titanic. But the Titanides would be sort of like a lot closer to the functions of nature itself, whereas Persephone, they're like the growth, development, and change that can happen within a person as well as, sort of within the political world, the doxa, right? So you've got the Titans, which are more like permanent fixtures of the literal reality, as opposed to the Olympians, which represent more of like the internal changes that can come about over time in different ways. So let me see. Am I pulled up here? No, I'm not. All right.
Are you?
Well, let's go over Persephone. So Persephone was the goddess queen of the underworld, the wife of Hades, right? Unwilling wife of Hades, let me add. She was also the goddess of spring growth, who was worshipped alongside her mother Demeter, also a goddess of fertility and spring growth, all the time, actually. In the Eleusinian mysteries, this agricultural-based cult promised its initiates passage to the blessed afterlife. So in addition to being this sort of goddess of spring, this goes back to the birth, death, rebirth cycle itself. This is why she was so important in the Eleusinian mysteries. This has to do with the mystery of life itself, right? Persephone was titled Kore, the maiden, as the goddess of spring's bounty. Once upon a time, she was playing in a flowery meadow with her nymph companions. Kore was seized by Hades and carried off.
That's why Hades wanted her so much.
Well, he was forced. So part of his duty as they split up the three realms, right? So you've got Zeus being Lord of the Heavens.
Right.
You've got Poseidon being Lord of the Seas, also the Earth Shaker. And you've got Hades, which is the underworld, right? He's also called Pluto because this is where all wealth springs from. If you're trying to look for gold, you're going to have to go to the underworld to find it. It's also interesting here that Persephone, the goddess of spring, springing up from the ground, right, has to do with the underworld as well. So there's this connection that ties them all together in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
So Hades was pissed that he got the short end of the stick, and now he has to live under the planet forever as the guardian there. And so he demanded of his brothers, give me a wife, at least give me some companionship down here. And they're all like, yeah, we'll get to it when we feel like it. So instead of waiting any longer, he decided to come up and take one. So anyway, she was seized by Hades and carried off to the underworld as his bride. Her mother Demeter despaired at her disappearance and searched for her throughout the world, accompanied by the goddess Hecate, bearing torches, right? So Hecate is also a goddess that moves between the overworld and the underworld, using the torches as the guide. When she learned that Zeus had conspired in her daughter's abduction, she was furious. Hecate also was part of the Eleusinian rites as well. Was furious and refused to let the earth fruit until Persephone was returned. Zeus consented, but because the girl had tasted the food of Hades, a handful of pomegranate seeds, what does that sound like? If you eat of this, you will surely die. Garden of Eden, right? And it goes back to that fertility and thinking about these different fruits as being part of the different realms that people live in. You also get the same kind of motif when it comes to the elves and the nymphs and all of the rest of this stuff. When you're in the elfin world or the dwarven world, if you eat the food there, you're stuck there forever. This is a common motif when you're talking about changing planes of existence. She was forced to forever spend part of the year with her husband in the underworld. Her annual return to the earth was in spring, marked by the flowering in the meadows and the sudden growth of new grain. Her return to the underworld in winter, conversely, saw the dying down of plants and halting of growths. In other myths, Persephone appears exclusively as the queen of the underworld, receiving the likes of Heracles and Orpheus at her court. Persephone was usually depicted as a young goddess holding sheaths of grain and a flaming torch. Back to the flaming torch idea. She probably took one from Hecate, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was shown in the company of her mother Demeter and the hero Triptolemus, the teacher of agriculture. Also, Triptolemus, yeah. That's right. So this goes back to the Eleusinian rites again. Triptolemus was a demigod of the Eleusinian mysteries who presided over the sowing of grain seed and the milling of wheat. Now, why would he be so important in the Eleusinian mysteries?
I have no idea.
What did they recently find in this kykeon? The drink that they would pour. Ergot. Ergot grows on the grain. Look at his picture here. He's getting poured that LSD or LSA substitute right there in his bowl. Right? So this is why
was he a god of shepherds?
No, sheaths of wheat, milling wheat.
Wheat, okay.
Right. Ergot root grows on the corn that they would then use in these drinks at the Eleusinian mysteries, right? So this is why he would be important there.
This was Persephone's lover?
No, this was he was a demigod of the Eleusinian mysteries. He was seen escorting her.
Okay.
Right. And Triptolemus, the hero, was the teacher of agriculture. And at other times she is seen enthroned beside Hades. So the spirit of these tutelary spirits, right? Triptolemus would be one of these tutelary spirits teaching men how to farm, how to do agriculture. Right? So all of this has to do with rebirth, fertility, agriculture.
Hold on. So Triptolemus, he taught agriculture?
Yes.
This is Dumuzi. This is Dumuzi from the Sumerian myth. The equivalent. Seems like it.
Now, is Dumuzi associated with Ishtar?
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a dying and rising, kind of god. Son of Enki, youngest son of Enki. So I don't know if there's anything there, but was killed by his brother Marduk in the myth, but or was chased by these certain spirits. These wind spirits chased him off a cliff, and he drowned, being a drowned god, right? Dumuzi was a very early motif, and this is Tammuz, right? This is an early motif for the drowned god, like Osiris, yeah, pretty interesting story. But
well, they got a lot of their inspiration from the the Eastern rites. This is why they were constantly looking over to the East as the source of wisdom, because they were pulling a lot of this stuff from these ancient cultures in Sumeria at the time that they were around. I believe there's a bigger difference between us and the ancient Greeks as opposed to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Sumerians. So they were really drawing back way back in history as they were trying to, interpret and use a lot of the existing religion over there in the East with what they were doing in Greece. So you find a lot of crossovers, especially in this sort of stuff. But anyways, so after Persephone was returned from the underworld, Demeter in her munificence instructed Triptolemus in the ways of agriculture and provided him with a winged serpent-drawn chariot. That seems really significant. Winged serpent-drawn chariot. You can see that here.
I want one of those, dude.
Hell yeah. But again, the
winged serpents, the seraphim.
Seraphim, yeah. You've also got in the New World, you've got this Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent, the winged dragon.
Right.
Feathered serpent.
Vegeta.
Exactly. Has to do with fertility too. Like, it's strange how.
Well, yeah. Well, the movement of the snake has to do with the the shedding of the old skin and the regeneration, right? So new life, yeah. But the sexual energy as well, right? Because of like humping and stuff. I don't know.
Well, intertwined serpents.
It's the same with the flame. That's why the Jews do the Shekinah. They
There
sit
you go.
there and they hump the fucking candle, and it's like, dude, hey, not my cup of tea, but
right. Well, I mean, it's the interpretation of these fertility rites in different cultures that gives you the cultural diffusion.
I find it funny how they get to have their divine feminine and venerate it, but our divine feminine is they're all demons and
that's evil,
witches, and yeah, man.
Do you see how what I was talking about when we first started? They want to put all of that stuff deep in our subconscious mind and give it no conscious expressions so that it can be used as a sort of leash. So they give you the symbols and then you sort of follow them around. You're given the symbols that your subconscious mind connects to, but you consciously don't know why you are connected with it in this way. A great example is Easter. Why do we still have these rabbits? Why do we still have these eggs? Why do we have any of this stuff? It's because there was a connection
for thousands of years, probably.
Exactly. So you can kind of give them the symbols and not explain any of it. It becomes up to you to really delve deep into that subconscious underworld mind of yours to figure out how you're connecting with these things and actually make sense of it. Because if you don't, it's real easy to sort of guide you around by the nose by this stuff.
Hey, Lucy, you have to join the Patreon because I'm gonna make the I'm gonna print a bunch of the I don't know. I'm not gonna spoil what I'm gonna do. It's gonna happen this summer. Got a lot of stuff on the horizon for the Gray Pill podcast. But I wanted to go back to the Shekinah, dude. Doesn't it represent Ashera or like Astarte? Who's the goddess? Who's fucking Yahweh's wife or whatever?
Asherah.
Yeah. Ashera.
There's something interesting about that. One of my friends was sending me a bunch of infographics on how Asherah developed in that Levantine region. And it's really interesting how closely the archaeology, when it comes to Asherah, really fits with the surrounding culture, right? So first they started out with these big old statues, and then they went over to poles, right? The Asherah pole was a later development of it. So when you see that instance in the Bible where they're talking about burn down and crush the Asherah poles, that was a later development from the initial development of having the statues and other things associated with the wife of Yahweh. So originally they went from these, beautiful statues of Asherah down to these poles of Asherah, and then the poles all had to be destroyed. So they associated it with the tree of life. The Asherah pole was a tree trunk. The tree of life is considered to be a female in the Bible, right? So that's also kind of interesting too. So the tree of life giving this gift of knowledge of good and evil, which Yahweh said, if you eat of this, you will surely die, which didn't happen to be the case, kind of goes back to the idea of the serpent being the liar in the Garden of Eden, right? So the serpent is the liar in the Garden of Eden.
Was the serpent a woman, dude?
Well, the original serpent in the Garden of Eden, I don't know if you've ever seen the original Garden of Eden story, but it's very different from the one that you get later on in the Bible.
I don't know if I have or not. Maybe. I don't know.
Let me pull that up for you because it changes the whole.
I also questioned if the fruit was a mushroom.
Well, it does represent the natural world, right? So this Garden of Eden represents sort of harmony, not only with God, but with the entire natural world. And it's the separation from that natural world where you see the change from humans being, naked and free to being, now having to put clothes on, having to do these horrible things that they have to, it was the Edenic state.
Are you a nudist?
No, I mean, it's just nudity is often.
Fucking with you, man.
I should be.
I mean, you could be. I'd be okay with it, dude. It is what it is. Well, I don't know.
Adapa and the life, right? So the Adapa myth with Adapa and the god Ea, and the Ugaritic. That's what I'm looking for. El, a garden on Mount Ararat. A deity named Heron, associated with the serpent, is cast down and turns the tree of life into a tree of death. So let me.
Oh shit! You said it had something to do with Aya?
Well, let me pull it up. Let me see.
Inky? No, but what I was saying, I mean, you could be in a nudist colony. You might not want to. It may want to be like an all-adult nudist colony. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be weird?
What?
Have kids in a nudist colony?
Oh yeah, that would be.
That'd be super weird.
All right, so this is from fucking Facebook. I don't want to be on that.
I don't know how that would work if you had a family, but I mean, whatever. It's nothing that I think is in Mississippi. You do have swinger, rich neighborhoods that have swinger communities.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't really understand about the nudity in ancient Greece and all of these sculptures and stuff is the nudity was representative of new life. It was not, always associated with.
But it wasn't perverted in a sense.
Right. So the
It represented beauty.
Right. So you would emerge new from like being reborn. So the idea of it's a different way of looking at the world. It's a symbolic way of saying you've been reborn, and rebirth fundamentals are all over the Greek mysteries, right? So, based on a reconstruction of Ugaritic text by scholars Marjo Korpel and Johannes de Moor published Adam and Eve and the Devil, A New Beginning in 2014. The myth parallels the Eden narrative in Genesis 2 and 3. El in the Garden of Eden, the creator El with his wife Asherah resided in the divine garden or vineyard or a mountain identified by the researchers as Mount Ararat or the White Mountain. Rebellious Horon. The deity Horon or Hauron, a snake god and potential rival to El, rebelled against El's authority and was cast down from the mountain to the Syrian desert.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You know who Horon is, right?
No, who's that?
Horus.
Horus. Interesting.
Dude, so
Again, this is cultural diffusion.
Horus
So,
was fighting Set. Think about it now.
right.
If Yahweh was the son of El, and Set, Set have kids.
Well, I'm not sure.
Seth, everyone, but Set.
So, anyways, the snake god and potential rival to El rebelled against his authority and was cast down from the mountain to the Syrian desert. In revenge, Horon posed as a giant serpent, poisoning the tree of life in the garden, transforming it into a tree of death. Adamu, a divine being often associated with Adam, was sent to manage the garden but was bitten by the serpent Horon, resulting in the loss of immortality of humans, although the sun goddess Shenesh offered a compromise of procreation to continue human life. So these Ugaritic texts are older than the biblical narrative and probably not as old as the Egyptian narrative, which is funny. But this idea of the loss of immortality going back to Osiris as well, right? So once he's sort of died, he comes back to life in a different way through Horus. So kind of that undying God and the God of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So the specific narratives are not explicitly attested in extant Ugaritic text, and that Copel and Moore's reconstruction is based off of speculative and tenuous, sometimes dubious interpretations of the fragments. Again, these are fragments, but some of those fragments are really interesting. So a lot of the stuff about Adamu and Horon are in the fragments, and then they added the stuff with El and the rebellion of Horon as a later date, but there is sort of that connection there. And they took the Ugaritic Baal cycle and just lifted whole chapters of it and put it in the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs too. So there's a lot that they took from the Ugaritic, and we haven't really found that out until
the Baal cycle is on the Esoteric Book Review on the Gods of the Morningwood list on the wheel. So maybe we'll land on it. I know Subby really wants to read it. But yeah. So let's see.
But I would say that there's a lot of Garden of Eden type motif when it comes to Demeter, Persephone, the underworld, and the way that it's portrayed with the Eleusinian mysteries as well. Life, death, rebirth, happening all in that sort of same time frame. It's all sort of included in that spring ritual. As life is returning to the world, it has to come from somewhere. It's coming from the underworld. It's rising up from the ground, right? That spiritual energy becomes palpable in these changing time periods. And it gives you hints or clues at a much greater mystery of life itself.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at a couple of these images. So yeah. Easter eggs.
Easter eggs abound. But that's kind of the point of Easter eggs, right? They talk about Easter eggs in all these movies and all these other things. Easter eggs become a clue, right? And this clue gives you a bigger story. It gives you a piece of the bigger narrative. That's sort of the way Easter eggs have been transferred over to popular media nowadays. It's like, oh, I recognize that Easter egg in the movie Toy Story, for instance, right? They're constantly putting Easter eggs in movies, which give you clues about a greater narrative going on behind the scenes, parallel to the scenes, all these other facets. Easter eggs themselves become that symbol of the clue in modern society. And if you look at the ancient rites, in a lot of ways, the Easter egg itself was about the clues to the mysteries of life and how all of these things connect.
Absolutely. The hair itself is is revered in lore. Even in pre-Christian times, it was seen as a holy creature associated with fertility and the returning spring. Many old religions had a spring goddess, a special deity who breathed life back into the world by banishing Old Man Winter. The Scandinavians called her Ēostre, Ēostre, Anglo-Saxons, and the Germans called her Ēostre. Ēostre? Oh. Lots of names. So, yeah, like I said earlier, every culture had their own goddess of the spring. And I think that's something that we should all remember, and something that, I mean, and, because you do have Christians that will deny that completely, right? They won't acknowledge it at all. And I think, you should at least acknowledge it if you're not going to, venerate the goddess at all, or practice any of the cultural traditions that come with the holiday or the season.
What I'd like people to do is really compare these myths and these rites of spring, these Eleusinian rites and these more Northern European rites, with the rites of Pascal or Passover. When they had to paint the blood on the door so that the Spirit of God would pass over their house and kill all of the Egyptian firstborn sons. That doesn't sound at all like it's coming from a place of spring and rebirth. It is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Right. And that Passover,
wow.
Right. It's a complete inversion. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when you invert a culture's symbols, they turn Easter, specifically Easter, into a time of mourning for Jesus Christ, right? So they've changed all of the bright colors into drab black, mourning colors, right? When in the original context, it was a time for bright, shining spring and hope. Right. So you have to sort of now go through these inversions of that spring ritual, which is.
But then they say, he is reborn, or he is resurrected, right? Or he is risen.
Right. On that Easter Sunday. And this is why some of that.
They say that could be a symbol for hope. What do you think about that?
If you look at the ones that call it Pascal, they're the ones who are more mourning the death. If you look at the ones calling it Easter in the European tradition, they're the ones celebrating the life. So, lucky us, we come from more of that Germanic tradition that sort of celebrates the life as opposed to celebrating the death. But if you look over at Spain and how they how
the women were dressing, dude, how I was just about to say that they had their veils on, and I just there's no, I don't know. You're right. There is no really, I don't think, any beauty in that, right? It's
right. Well, again, this is cultural diffusion. If we're going with these symbols coming from a culture that's not native to us, we're going to find that a lot of our cultural institutions around these different events are going to be complete inversions of what they were originally practiced. And that's not healthy for a society, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say so.
But how easy is it to reinvert it? That's what I love about it.
That's what I've been talking about on Gray Pilled. We need to take back our symbols.
Absolutely. Can't let other people determine this stuff for us. We've got all the Easter eggs. All we need to do is follow them. Use those in our own spiritual practices.
What, like real eggs?
Well, no, I mean like the Easter eggs in the concept of like movies and stuff, right? So, in the concept of movies, we're given Easter eggs, which give us a greater narrative outside of the narrative being presented. Well, all of these symbols that we have from Easter and these previous cultures, all of the ones that we came from, those are our Easter eggs to try and get back a little bit of that cultural hegemony instead of, cultural servitude.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is getting late. So this was a good episode. I actually learned a couple things that I did not know before. So, what you got this week, dude?
Well, I've got the remote viewing show coming up on Thursday, so check
So
that
you
out.
don't do the mailbag on Thursdays anymore?
No, I've kind of shifted over into more because like the mailbag wasn't working. I guess it's the Gmail or something. But if you guys want to join us, we do live remote viewings, which is not something you get in a lot of other places. Nobody's doing that on YouTube, I don't think. So check us out on Thursdays at around 7:30, 8:30, around that time frame, and we will do live remote viewing. You can use this in your own life to actually start to connect a little bit more. I think a lot of people have the idea that remote viewing is something that is, government trained into you. But I think, as opposed to that perspective, this is all about getting in touch with your own capacity, your own potential. So if you're using this, you're actually becoming more of who you are instead of something that somebody else wants to make you. You're tapping into your untapped resources. I mean,
Yeah.
If you think about it, we've all got these untapped resources, and all we can do is try and figure out how to use them to the best ability that we have right now. So tap into your untapped resources. You'll become more of who you are.
Yeah. And like I tell a lot of people, you're on your own path. You have your own discernment, right? Don't let someone else dictate, your spiritual experience.
Right. Well, I don't know if we can play it, but there's a great song. It's called Heretic Heart. It's from back in the 90s. If you guys want, I don't know, it's probably going to get us a copyright strike.
It will.
I
I think we should do it.
Look it up for yourselves. Heretic Heart on
You can
YouTube.
do a show on Rumble sometime, and you're free to play whatever songs you want to.
Isn't that funny?
We need to choose a movie for you to watch on the Patreon with me. Nick is doing Mother with me. I think we may do that this week. Guys, I'll keep y'all updated on the Patreon. We're gonna do an occult breakdown of Mother, the movie with J Law and Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, and it's it's a pretty fucked up movie, but have a fun time breaking it down. And then got a couple other ones we're doing the TBA, so Patreon. I said people, but yeah, dude,
Clash of the Titans. We can do Clash of the Titans. I love that movie.
great. We'll get a date picked out.
1981 version.
1981. Fuck yeah, dude. I was talking last night to Bennett, and I was talking about how I watched the Nibelungs movie. You have the Volsungs, then you have the Nibelungs in that saga, and it talks about it was about Sigurd slaying Fafnir, and then him and Brynhild and all that. But in this portrayal, there was like no mention of the gods. There was no really I don't know. You didn't really know. I mean, it was like a 1928 film, 27, so it was silent, but I don't know. It was great though, as far as the imagery and just it's beautiful. You know what I mean? I think it was. But it's crazy. I didn't even know that was like even a fucking movie. I was like, dude, it kind of helps you understand what's happening in the Volsunga saga as far as the themes, certain themes. They actually, because Odin's there the whole time. He's just like this general in King Gunnar's army, and Siegfried or Sigurd and Gunnar are like doing this, like they're basically doing magic and changing faces. Like he has this magic veil that he got off this gnome, no, dwarf. Fuck me, dude. And he can basically like be invisible, or he can take the form of anybody else who's around. So it's a pretty cool movie, man. That may be a movie we have to add to the list, guys. It's a 5-hour-long silent film. We may fucking do it sometime. Who cares?
That's perfect for podcasting. You can just sit there and make all the commentary you want to.
You're actually right, and I think I could probably because it's on YouTube, so you couldn't stream it to YouTube, unfortunately.
We got to do more, Rumble exclusives. If you guys don't follow me on Rumble, go follow me on Rumble because I
Hey
love.
Brooks, what's up, man? It's good to see you. No, this episode was long overdue. We should have done it a couple weeks ago. I've been busy. Everyone knows that who watches my show. But yeah, dude. No, this. I'm sure we'll do another one sooner than later. So this was a banger. I had a good time. Sorry it was so late though. Got off late tonight, so I don't know how it is, but my family is out of town right now, so I got time to do shows. I'll fucking do them. I told everybody that. Hannah Sabazius Part 2. Don't know when, but it's going to be on Patreon. I'll let you guys know about that too. We may stream the first 30 minutes live and then cut it like how we do sometimes with the Morningwood, with Gods of the Morningwood. This week on Gods of the Morningwood, we're Part 5 of Pistis Sophia, and then Poetic Edda. So we'll be finishing the Grimness Mall and then start and doing the Elvis Mall. It's going to be fun. So I don't believe I have any other shows booked.
Oh, well, if you guys want to see an interesting debate where I'm debating a Platonist about whether or not Plato was good for humanity or not, you should check that out.
I still need to check that out, dude.
Top streamed one on my channel, so check out Headless Giant on YouTube, and you can see that one real quick. I think I did a pretty good job of proving my point because they have to keep asking me on Twitter over and over and over again, what's your point? And I just keep saying my point, and they have to keep asking it to me because it seems like they can't grasp the things I'm saying. So if you can watch it and understand what I'm saying, that would be you put yourselves head and shoulders above every Platonist out there. So if you want to put yourselves head and shoulders above every Platonist, all you have to do is understand the simple words that are coming out of my mouth in that debate, and then automatically you're just smarter than every Platonist, which is amazing. It's easy. Climb that ladder.
Yeah, dude, it's understanding Platonism, and I definitely get what you're saying, but I do get what some of the other people say, how it's like, we wouldn't have this or this without it. But like I said, I don't know nearly as much about it as you or anyone else that you're probably going to debate with. So I'd be, like I said, if I can moderate any other debates, if I'm available, I'll definitely do that. I come at everything from a pretty unbiased view. So yeah, if anyone wants to debate Headless on anything, debate them, and I'll moderate the debate. We'll live stream it on Gray Pilled and the Occult Rejects. But yeah, go check out the episode I did last night with Bennett from Broadcasting Seeds. We had Matthew Lane on Saturday. Nick came on the show, along with Jake from State Farm. Shout out Jake. That was a good show, man. It was fun. Shout out Matt. He was a good dude. Y'all go check out that episode. Go check out their channels as well. Yeah, I think we may have some Occult Reject shows this week, and I'm not sure what we have. Oh, thanks, SMS. I appreciate that. Yeah, good night, Fire Pixie. Yeah, it's getting late. I still have to I ate a little bit earlier, but I really want to eat a lot more, dude. I eat a lot, but I can never get over like 170 pounds, dude, because my job, I just fucking walk so much.
Well, you're in that Alabama heat.
Mississippi, but very, very similar. Yes. I think Mississippi may be hotter than Alabama. So yeah, it's hard to keep the water weight during the during the summer, dude. You're sweating fucking everything out. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for next episode of Rustic Gods, and go follow the Occult Rejects. Occult Rejects, YouTube.com and Rumble. Spotify, all that good stuff. Spreaker, Occult Rejects is on Spreaker, unlike me. I guess I could, if you want to follow me on X at Graypill Pod, and you go over to Rumble, YouTube, follow Headless's channel. Dude, get his Rumble up, please. Let's get it up. Let's get it in the hundreds. I think it's in the hundreds already, maybe. We'll get it there if not. Don't worry about it. It's new. And Rumble is, weird. Got people deleting accounts all the time. I gain and lose followers every day. So, but yeah, and go to occultrejectsinstitute.org. Forgot to plug that as well. Trying to do what Nick does, doing an Occult Reject show because we are streaming from that channel. So, anyway, yeah, guys, have a good night. Everybody have a. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, new merch is coming up soon. Sending these sticker packs out. I'm getting the rest of the stamps tomorrow, so I'll have them sent out before the weekend, hopefully. Yeah, graypill.printify.me if you want merch. But yeah, guys, have a great Woden's Day tomorrow. And until next time, fear nothing, question everything, and stay gray-pilled. Later, everybody.